amazing experience. So maybe we could start just by introducing yourself. Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Alice Fitch. I'm the founder of WHOLA. WHOLA is a business-to-business fashion platform. We are there to make life better for retailers, and at the moment we do that by making their store instantly relevant to their customer, and we were the first digital platform for fashion wholesale buying in Australia.
Hi everyone, I'm Nigel Poole. I'm the founder at Matter. I get to work with Julien every day. We're an agency, we've been around for 20 years now. We do a lot of B2B work and B2C e-commerce, but e-commerce is really our specialty.
My name's Andy On. I'm from a business called Kaddy. So Kaddy is essentially a B2B alcohol distribution company and marketplace. So ultimately really trying to disrupt the journey for how bars, restaurants, clubs, bottle shops, etc. Are ordering, where it tends to be, quite different. It tends to be a very, traditional, conversational-based, relationship-based way of ordering, and we're adding that e-commerce layer to it.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brent Bellm, CEO at BigCommerce. We're a publicly traded e-commerce platform based out of today, Austin, Texas, but we were founded right here in Sydney, Australia, 14 years ago. So Australia founded success story. And I think the most relevant thing for us in B2B is that if you go into G2, where the world's businesses rate the software that they use, we're, for a B2B platform, both the most popular and the highest rated by far in the world. So when we talk about B2B, at least according to the customers who do B2B e-commerce, they like BigCommerce the best of all the ones they rate.
Hey guys, my name is Brent Sinclair. I'm the founder and director of the B2B e-commerce association. We set up a couple of years ago. So in a nutshell, we're a industry collective and resource professional network for manufacturers, distributors and retailers that are in the B2B commerce category. So if you are interested in connecting with other B2B professionals, learning, accessing great resources, definitely check out the B2B e-commerce association. But looking forward to being part of this panel today.
Amazing, thanks everyone. So as I was saying, incredible experience around the table here. There's no table, digital table, of course. I'm gonna start, as I was saying, by the doers, the one that have really enabled B2B business, I would say, by doing it themselves. And of course, you can do kind of B2B. But yeah, Alice, I'd like to maybe start with you. And if you can tell us about WHOLA and all the lessons learned by enabling this ecosystem that you're contributing to every day. So,
I guess I'll start by saying technology and digital transformation takes much longer and is more complex than you ever forecast. So that has been my experience along the entire journey. And it requires a lot of input, communication with your stakeholders, so suppliers, customers, team, and education for them as well to ensure that they are totally on board with the journey. And that was a learning site for me. But the biggest one was software education for me. There was a yawning gap in my knowledge. I had a fashion and marketing background, but not a technology background. So for me, it was about finding the right people to put around me who could help fill that knowledge gap and really dive deep on the whys behind our wins, behind our failures, and so we could really get a lot of depth on our product capabilities, where we have potential, and understanding what our roadmap looks like. So for me, it's about building trust with people around me to actually be able to deliver the vision that I have, because I'm not a technical founder, and finding a team who I trust intrinsically, who take responsibility when things go well and when they don't, and who communicate really directly around what is going to work and what isn't, and if it isn't, how can we actually achieve things. So that's my biggest learning so far.
So I think the second question we had as well was around creating value throughout this ecosystem. What is the value you feel like you're creating, the biggest value that you bring to them? And maybe focus on that aspect of your business.
Sure. The quick answer is scale. When you contrast WHOLA as the biggest window into the fashion wholesale market in Australia compared to the traditional model of doing fashion wholesale, traditionally a rep could see 8 to 10 customers a day. With us, you can reach 3,500 retailers in a week. And so it means that brands can grow really quickly, and that also then frees up their time to do what they do best, which is building their brand, building out great ranges, marketing their business, direct to consumers to build that margin, where we do what we do best, which is working on marketing and sales and the customer service side for wholesale. So it just allows them to focus on what their strengths are basically and grow really quickly.
And just like, it was not part of the script, but any key maybe numbers or figures about what you have created to those merchants you would be able to share?
We don't talk turnover numbers ever, but I can tell you we have 130 brands on the platform. We've got 5,600 retailers, and about 90% of them are in Australia. We're starting to look at export because we're just organically starting to get a lot of overseas customers.
Got a question for Alice quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Managing that amount of suppliers, I can imagine that's quite challenging. Is there any lessons learned or war stories that you can tell us about?
It's the one thing I never thought would be a problem. We build this amazing platform, we do this amazing marketing, we get all of these amazing sales, and then your brands literally just have to pack the order and we pay for the shipping. Like, all they have to do is pack it. And so I never saw that as a risk point, but it's actually one of our biggest risk points, is that last step of the journey is in the hands of somebody else. So we might do an NPS of 100 up until that point, but if they don't ship it on the same day, our NPS drops right down to a 30, which is obviously not what we want. So it's about, first of all, having better supplier relationships and partnerships, managing their expectations up front around what we expect of them. And then it's about execution. So we're in the process now of investing heavily into better technology to actually integrate with all of their systems so that it's less hard for them. And then putting better processes in place. So we obviously have checks every day to make sure everything has been shipped, but it's actually about optimizing that, automating that as much as possible so that the suppliers can actually view that information at a click of a button.
I have a question based off that. Sorry.
Well, we might take question in the end,
Okay.
if you don't mind, so we can just at least follow the first presentation.
Yeah, no.
Thank you. Yeah, keep it, save it.
Yeah, I will.
Because I wanted to jump now to Andrew's experience, and it's great to see there's interactivity, which is what I wanted to foster, because it's a small room we have. Yeah, if you can tell us as well about how you guys stepped in the market, decided to digitize a very traditional kind of more industry. Can you tell us more about that story, please?
Yeah, look, this story probably starts in twofold. The organisation was sparked off by two different groups of founders independently. One was much more into looking at wine and wanting to create a marketplace for all the wine merchants and producers of Australia to say, because there are thousands of them. You just look to whether it's the Hunter Valley, you look to the Barossa. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of independent small winemakers out there. So really about how to bring them all together to have a single place where you could to buy those wines from. There's then another set of founders as well who brought together the Kaddy brand, which were essentially looking out there. Instead of wine, it was about craft beer and spirits. So again, hundreds and hundreds of individual craft brewers out there trying to find their way to market. They're able to do really well with their own local sales, where they can actually reach, and they'll be going to those pubs or those venues on a regular basis themselves with their own sales agents or their own drinking, watering holes. But ultimately, once you get past that, it just disparates from there. So those businesses were brought together to form the one operation focusing on the overall alcoholic beverage market. That has then expanded into the great trends of non-alc brands, seltzers, things like that. So all of those are really being founded by the smaller ends of town and bring them together. Now, There and then, it was it was a great initiation story. What challenged it was that it's aiming at bars, restaurants, and clubs were its first thing and primary focus. But then COVID hit. So COVID probably came in about 2 years into both of the organisations' journeys, and as a result of that, there were lots and lots of pivots that needed to happen because there were no bars, restaurants, and clubs that were open in order to procure and sell the products that are there. So thankfully there was a pivot, and that pivot was into the bottle shops. The bottle shops really worked super well as that pivot, which enabled the business to stay afloat during that COVID period of time. That changed the way in which ordering happened, where you would think a restaurant, bar, and club does not have a huge amount of space to order. They order by the case. They want to buy individual bottles of spirits, whereas a bottle shop will order pallets of beer. They will order full cases of spirits. So they're ordering in very different quantities as well. So we just heard about the logistics journey. That's there with fashion. I'll tell you, the logistics journey on alcohol is very complex because it's heavy. It's very heavy and it's very cool as well.
Right. Well, I had a question about the challenges or the barriers you had, and I guess you mentioned a couple of challenges. Maybe a question about that industry is more kind of traditional, even fashion can be traditional, but I'd say fashion is attacked with a lot of pure plays for many years. So what would you say, by digitizing such a traditional industry would be the biggest barriers you guys are facing at the moment?
For us, it's about relationships. It's digitizing relationships is the hardest thing that is there, where the bottle shop or the restaurant will talk to an individual, the same individual from multiple years, and the brands that are out there that are on our platform as well. A lot of them are still utilizing the old field sales models that are out there. They were going to go and do their own individual visits to those bars and venues and things like that. So in actual fact, the competition is, there's a bit of mindset, but there's also within the industry, but there's also the challenge that we're eating someone else's commission by our very own existence as well. So we're as a platform, we've got fees that we need to pay as well. But instead, are we cutting someone out of their field commission? That's something that's there as well that we've got to face into, and we work with the brands to say, look, in actual fact, do you need to have all of these representatives that are there? I know they've been, some of them are family members, and that's where it really gets challenging and hard. But, where you want to grow relationships and deepen and broaden in areas that you've never even touched, that is where we can work really well for you. And to start off there, because it's a national presence and it's a scale presence, but going from there, then they can test it out, see what it looks like, and then and then really make their own decision there onwards.
Yeah, I mean that that challenge is still probably one of the biggest areas that is really slowing down the B2B e-commerce industry locally and probably internationally. Brent, you probably see this all the time, but how do you combine your traditional sales team with your online? It's obviously quite scary for you don't know what you don't know. You're changing these commission models, so there's a lot of new thought leadership now that's coming out, and new reference cases where there's some really great success stories of combining offline sales and online. So I think it's really important topic to consider today around how you actually get those two working together, because it's not really the death. Often hear about the death of the salesman with a B2B portal, but it's not really the case. It's more about, especially in those early days, about removing a lot of those mundane tasks, administrative tasks that are there, and then giving your salespeople the tools to really enhance their performance and be more efficient and be more strategic in their sales approach. I know that from a BigCommerce perspective, it's a lot of investment for you guys in those sort of tools.
100%. Yeah, I mean, B2B e-commerce should be making the salesperson far more effective and efficient in doing their jobs. Both enabling a sales portal for the salesperson to in essence, manage the quotes that they're sending out, the customer interactions that they are engaging in. And I think that's really the problem that we tackle. I had this conversation with some of our product managers just yesterday. What is the single problem we're trying to solve for the salesperson in the sales portal part of our product? And it is customer interactions. It's creating process and good user experience around the salesperson going back and forth on quotes, on orders, on invoices, on service, and enabling effectiveness of the salesperson, not displacing them.
So change management in the end, and I guess you wanted to as well jump on that.
I did want to jump on that, and more to do. I mean, Andrew and I face a similar challenge in that our industries are long tails. You have some big players, but then you have lots and lots and lots and lots of tiny players. And most of the businesses that play in that space have probably never looked at the actual cost to service those customers. And to do it digitally and do it effectively digitally costs so much more for the return on investment that you actually get. And so it stacks up, but it can be a difficult sell to the brands to actually get them to look at those numbers.
Great. Well, thanks for that, guys. Helping me doing my job. Love it. I guess it's about facilitating each other, and that's what you guys do as a marketplace business. You've adopted a platform business model. And on the other side, we have Brent from BigCommerce. You guys are actually helping merchants to go digital, but you need to make sure that they also have to be connected to marketplaces. So, of course, I'm sure out of the box is more like very well-known marketplaces, but connectivity is a big part of your value prop. Can you tell us more about, why is it important for an e-commerce platform to stay that open and that connected?
First, let me define channel connectivity for a second. When we think of omnichannel, we think of integrating all of the following. Online, it is, first of all, your branded website that will sell to the business customer directly. It's also integrating with third-party marketplaces online. It's integrating with your advertising channels online, search engines, affiliate networks, etc. And it's your offline point of sale. You want to have connectivity and one view into all of those in order to actually deliver on the value you're trying to create from e-commerce. And the value you're trying to create, first of all, is for your business buyer, a single portal where the buyer can go in, manage permissions, make quote requests, complete purchases, pay invoices, see order history, efficiently reorder. And if you don't have connectivity into all those channels I mentioned, then it's a very disjointed experience, right? You want to be able, as a buyer, to go in and see your offline orders, see your online orders, maybe complete a purchase that was started offline, pay an invoice that was started offline, quote that was started offline, service that speaks to orders or interactions regardless of where they take place. Same thing goes for the salesperson. The salesperson wants tools to manage conversations that exist across all these different offline and online channels. So, and then finally, you're trying to automate process, including processes that used to be inefficient regardless of where the transaction originates or completes. So, long-winded way of saying, if you don't integrate all the channels, online and offline, then you're not going to achieve the real value you're trying to get, which is a great universal experience for your business buyer, efficiency of processing orders and serving customers across the organization where you're digitizing inefficient offline processes, and a really effective way of elevating the salesperson and the salesperson's ability to take and complete orders.
Right, thanks for that. I had another question for you, but I'll come back after. I want the other speakers as well. I'll go to you, Brett. So you deal with B2B business every day, going to transformation, adopting either channel connectivity or as well having themselves an e-commerce platform they're starting with. So how can merchant can effectively manage change during that transition? Can you maybe tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I guess, it's probably pretty cliche, and you probably hear it all the time, but it really is probably the number one thing you really need to do in a B2B transformation, in a digital transformation, manufacturing, distribution business where, digital is typically not in the core DNA of the organisation. And it really is about bringing everyone on the journey and having the right, champions leading the project internally. It's one of the most common things that we see, and even in quite what maybe you call more mature organisations, is that the head of sales and the sales leaders aren't invested enough in the project, which is quite interesting really when you think about it, because ultimately the investment is about growing sales and it is about the B2B buyer. The amount of times where I would maybe reach out to a sales leader and say, hey, we're having this conference, you guys should come to this, might be of interest to you. And they're like, oh no, go talk to this person in marketing, or go talk to this person in supply chain or IT. So that's one of the big things that really needs to shift. So if there's, people in the room that are embarking on that, there's probably, quite a few that would probably say, yeah, I wish that our head of sales was more involved. It's one of those things where, again, back to what I said before, not in the core DNA, and, might have been traditional B2B sales for the last 20 years. We really need to start to bring those people on the journey. So I think, that's really going to help your change efforts if you're having those types of leaders invested from day one, and also your customers as well. So, often too many people just wait too long to get their customers involved, especially their key customers involved in that transformation, because again, ultimately you're trying to create something of value for them to order from. And if you don't bring them along the journey, you're going to have change issues as well throughout the process when, you try to get them to actually adopt the platform, because if you've gone and built something that they don't necessarily think is better than calling customer service or the rep, then you're going to have a few problems. So it's bringing, both people internally and externally on the journey as soon as possible.
Right, thanks for that. And maybe, Nigel, on that, I'd like you to comment. So you have, Matter, an agency. Can you tell us how business can leverage technology today to create a better customer experience, to, what kind of technology as well, if you can give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah, we work with a number of technologies, and particularly in B2B, it's always very specific to the business. All the businesses have their own way of doing things, their own payment terms, their own types of customers, types of products, ways to process those orders. So we really need to, as an agency, understand our customer, our client, and how their business works. So a lot of what we do is really about looking at the problems in that workflow, looking at how that can be digitized to overcome those problems. And to Brett's point, really looking at how we can create value for the people that are actually going to influence that change, being the salespeople. So we have a very CX-led approach. So we're really designing customer first, but for B2B, the customer or the stakeholder is really the salespeople, and they're the ones driving that change and introducing that to their customers. So when we do B2B, we're really looking at how can we design and build for a number of different personas, and how we can create that efficiency.
So that's interesting. Do you, Andrew, Alice, on the way you work as well and on board about customer experience, is it one of the things you really want to work on? We are enabling you guys to have a great experience on the platform, but as well deliver a great experience on the other end. Is it part of the USP? Can you maybe touch on that? I don't know, any of you that's keen?
Totally. Of course, customer is at the centerpiece. It's why we built it. It's why we exist. And we do get our customers involved in feature development and laying out our wireframes and what we think it will look like. We test that with them. We learn from them. And, some of the best things that we've done have actually come from our customers. So it is always worth getting your customers involved in developing that journey. And if you do that, you actually get to know them really well, so that next time you actually nail it. And usually they're like, well, this is exactly what I had in my head. But they will come up with ideas that you perhaps hadn't thought of, or a different angle that will make it easier. So it is really critical.
Again, customers, mics from everywhere. customer is kind of at the forefront of everything, and that's really the purpose of what we're striving to do to really add that value that's there. I mean, we've always got to think of, you know, there's a difference as well between the customer and the user as well, and you know, whilst that customer, the person who's paying those bills, might be the owner of a business, or you know, within a lot of those angels signing up to us originally, a lot of the people that are going to be there are the frontline individuals. You know, they're doing replen at the end of the day, they're doing their stock counts, and so therefore we need to have something, you know, that is simplistic, straightforward, easy to use, that can take it right the way through from the business owner utilizing it to, you know, to the store operator doing their replen activities as well. So, you know, again, you know, you talk of wireframes, you talk of, you know, user testing, you know, things like that. That's all very, very widely used. I mean, my previous life was at Woolworths, and looking at the e-com brands over there, and you know, I would probably think out of all the organisations that I've been in, you know, consumer testing, there would be at least one a day, and in my area and space in ecom, there would be probably at least one a week of consumer testing going on. So, you know, it's about everything. Just a click of the button, the design of that button, the design of a pop-up, it means everything.
Right. Actually, maybe Brett, if you don't mind. B2C business, we know it's all about customer experience, and we know like B2B, because of maturity, because of many other drivers, there might be different reason why, different driver, the reason why they when they jump into a digitization project. Yeah, can you tell us more about the place of customer experience within the B2B business that's actually part of the association in terms of what they want to achieve?
Yeah, I think what's sort of changing now as the market's getting a little bit more mature is, and you know, it's becoming a bit more of the new normal for a B2B organisation to have a self-service sort of buying portal. We've talked about like the different foundations that you would need. You know, Brent you know, rattled off a few of them before about being able to log in and be able to place orders and do quotes and all those types of things, talk to your sales rep. So, you know, you'd probably talk about that stuff as more like a level one sort of foundational experience. But I guess now when you talk about customer experience, which is, you know, mean many different things, but the way I kind of think about it is like, what are you doing to make, like really innovating in to make your customer's job easier? And because those are the things that are really going to make a difference between them wanting to, you know, use your digital experience over your competitors. And those are the ones, I guess, that I'm seeing that, you know, are really making waves with their investment into the B2B customer experience, is the ones that have actually built, you know, custom solutions almost for particular use cases, you know, within their business. You know, just talking to, you know, a practitioner out the front before, and where one of the use cases is they've got to deal with some complexity in the pharmacy sort of healthcare professional space, right? That has some unique nuances. If you just rolled out a standard, you know, platform for that, they're not going to buy into it. Like you need to be innovating. So I guess, you know, that's the, you know, the key kind of takeaway around this topic is that, you know, you need to be thinking, you know, further along than just, you know, allow a customer to place order. And I think, you know, that's what you're seeing, you know, with the way that, you know, these platforms now are having to provide, you know, more flexible frameworks in order for you to be able to do that sort of innovation. So, probably Nigel, you know, might have some comments around that.
Yeah, I mean, as we started talking about technology, like what we put in place are tools that we can build those custom solutions for. So the sort of, I agree, like a buyer's portal is sort of like your foundation, but from a good technology, we can innovate on that, right? So we're not necessarily building ground up everything. We've got a really good foundation that we can then customize and tweak to meet those nuances. So I'll give you an example. We've got a client that sells wedding dresses. They manufacture wedding dresses. They'll take an order, they'll start manufacturing that order. So they'll start manufacturing the dress, and when it hits a certain point in the production cycle, they will initiate a payment request from their ERP. And to take payment on that, we pulled that into their buyer's portal, essentially, on their website, put a pay now button next to their order, and all they had to do was click that button. It would match the order ID back in their ERP. They'd pay the right amount. That would go through down to their ERP and reconcile. And that sort of use case isn't what you necessarily get out of the box, but it was purpose-built for their workflow and their production cycle. So that's where we could use and it was BigCommerce, this particular client, but we could build upon that BigCommerce foundation and really meet that need in a quite elegant way.
Yeah, I was really curious, Brent, because I know along the journey you would have had to probably adapt your product pretty significantly, or made some big investments in order to accommodate B2B use cases across different industries.
Yeah, I'll give a couple quick examples of just how flexible the platform can enable personalization in B2B. With our multi-storefront functionality, where you can have one account but multiple different storefronts. For example, Lavazza, the big Italian coffee maker out of Europe, will have different user experiences and storefronts for each country it sells into B2B. One slightly different ones from country to country. Another example is industrial products, construction materials company called Technoblock. It's more than $1 billion in sales, and it's with different storefronts. It'll sell to a consumer where the experience is all about design ideas, to a contractor where they'll have CAD-enabled tools, or to the commercial sector where it's focused on the hardcore building supplies. Another example is Uplift Desk, those sort of adjustable stand-up desks where they've got a whole configurator integrated into their website. And so the business buyer goes in and configures the types of uplift desks that they want for their employees, and they get that whole interactive design your own product type experience within the website. That's a very, you might see that a lot in consumer websites, but now they're doing it on B2B. And then the extreme version of personalization would be when you integrate a personalization tool. Like there's a really big company in the UK called MKM Supply, which is DIY and other tools, and they're using a company called Bloomreach for their search and merch, and having individual personalization by buyer on a single website. And they just won a Mock Alliance B2B Site of the Year award for that, because by building in that personalization for each individual buyer, they saw a doubling of the conversion rate and a 50% increase in average order value. Really paid off.
Right, thanks guys. Well, I guess we have 5 minutes left, so I wanted to maybe cut a bit the discussion here. I know there was some question from the floor. Maybe we can use this time, if you don't mind, if anyone want to share or...
Back to the question, thank you. Where we were talking, or you both were talking, Andrew and Alice, around your distribution chain. And I think you sell dropship, is that how your model works? And are you consolidated distribution when someone orders from a store?
A bit of both. It's a bit of direct supplier, but a bit of our own distribution.
So I guess what I'm really interested in, which is an opportunity which we don't currently do to B2B, is how do the retailers respond then with individual brands delivering multiple packages of individual brands on, like they might get 10 orders a week or 20 or 30. How do you manage that? So not only do you have the supplier relationships with the delivery, but then the retail relationship.
A great question, and it is a challenge, and to be totally transparent, it's something that we haven't completely solved yet. And the reason that we haven't had it on the top of our to-do list is because if you look at the way it's currently being done outside of WHOLA, that is how it works. So if you're buying for your store, you go to X brand, Y brand and Z brand, and you pay shipping from each of those anyway. It can increase the friction because all of a sudden you're seeing it on a screen that goes, it's going to cost you this much for this and this much for this, and it's really in your face. Whereas the old way of doing it, you literally would email your credit card details to somebody, you wouldn't actually know the shipping cost, and then the stock would arrive in your store, so it wasn't visible. So it can be a bit of a moment, but then they go, oh, actually, yeah, I guess I'm already doing that. So it's not such a problem for them, but it is something that we want to solve. We do subsidise our shipping costs in order to bring that kind of shock value down a little bit for them, and we have integrated our shipping across all of our supply partners. So we use one courier network to deliver everything really reliably, and it's all integrated with the site, so they get tracking and all of those things done.
Yeah, but I guess very interesting question, and very interesting, I guess how Alice is sort of solving the problem as well. Well, I spent quite a bit of time. I mean, I've worked within Australia Post and Star Trek as well, and so in terms of what the tools out there for delivery that exist, as Alice said, most consumers or most buyers are used to that journey. The problem that has been solved in the instantaneous upfront problem is creating that single order, and solving that, bringing everyone together so you get one ordering platform, and they're used to multiple deliveries at this point in time. The complexity has always been, where does that product come from at the end of the day? That product could be coming from WA, it could be coming from around the corner in Sydney, it could be coming from Melbourne, and so therefore there is that use of multiple deliveries being received. There is always a desire to try and move towards that consolidated delivery and creating that capability, and it's really, from me and my experience of what I've seen works, it's really about understanding what are those fast movers that move through, what are your top SKUs, your top lines that are there, and then it's about maybe bringing that closer to you so that you can create that unified experience. You wouldn't do it for the long tail that you've got there, but if you know that there are 2 or 3 lines that are usually combined together based on the data that you have, then it's about, well, how do we introduce that as a bit of a bundle, and you can create that singular delivery proposition and see how things like that work and pan out. If there's a new line that comes and that works really well, then you can add that to that, and it just will naturally start to happen from there. If you just try to bring everything together, you're just going to end up with large amounts of logistics costs and warehouse costs, and and you're going to be touching product multiple times, which won't work.
Great question.
Yeah. I'm sure we have time for another question. Anyone from the floor would like to ask whether fulfillment? No? Right, okay. Well, we're sharp on the clock, except if you guys want to add anything else. But thank you so much for joining us, giving these different perspectives about what you've established and what might be the future as well. Yeah, please a round of applause to our panel.